Right. Good afternoon all. I hope you can all hear me. I'm Oliver Maguire. I'm here from HMRC, from our small and medium-sized business education teams. And today, firstly, thank you to GovDelivery for giving us the opportunity to present to you today about our experiences of using the system. Today, really, I wanted to firstly talk about our strategy to provide you a bit of context to where email sits into our strategy. That's the kind of the background, but then the interesting bit is when I hand over to Mike, who will talk about how we're actually using GovDelivery and some of the real positive successes that we're having since we started using that service in July. I should also say, I've been told that digital by default is a bit of a dirty word today, so I've only just been made aware of that, so apologies if there's any profanity in this presentation. So really, the start of our journey was with the development of the government's digital strategy. Back in 2010, the government commissioned Martha Lane Fox, who is the UK's digital champion, to commission a report looking at how government interacts with citizens. And it was through this study that Martha looked at what that relationship needed to be in the future, how we should develop that, and how government could reach out to citizens through in this new digital age. At that time, the UK government had a well-established information portal, which was DirectGov, which you may remember, and we had that around. That had been around since about 2004. However, the findings from Martha's report was very much that there was a need for radical change in the way that government interacted digitally, and that really, because there'd been a revolution or a reinvention, as she described it, of the internet and behaviours of users, that actually we needed to take a radical new approach to how we were actually going to deliver that service. And she recommended that digital services needed to be agile, open and cheaper. And I think that's, for government departments in a time of austerity, that last word is particularly attractive. She went on further to say that in order to take advantage of these changes, the government needed to adopt a service culture. We needed to put the user of our digital services at the heart of our design. And I think perhaps in the past, government departments prior to that were perhaps guilty of putting processes and policy ahead of user need. So ultimately, this then led to the development of government digital services within the Cabinet Office, the development of gov.uk, the central government portal for information and transactional services, and really the ambition that all government departments are now striving to is to create digital services that are so convenient, so straightforward, so attractive that everybody that can use them, chooses to use them ahead of any other traditional alternative. In doing so, there's a lot of benefit that can be delivered for government itself. Estimates are in the region of £1 billion per year in terms of government cost savings. But similarly for the citizen as well, about £500 million per year is estimated that we could be saving the citizens in making that a more streamlined and attractive online service. And there's just a couple of examples of the cost to serve against sort of three key delivery channels. And clearly web-based transactions are a lot cheaper than the traditional face-to-face or telephony channels. So then that's the context of the kind of wider government agenda. Then HMRC obviously had to translate that into something that the department itself could use. And we ourselves published our own digital strategy in December last year, which was really looking to translate that into something operational for our departments. HMRC already had a customer-centric business model, which was designed to consider the customer in our design of services and products. But really, the push from Martha Lane Fox's review and the need to put user need at the centre of our design really sort of re-emphasised that need to consider the user at all times. And really, I think at this point, HMRC realised that there were some big changes that need to take place. If we were actually going to realise this digital by default, sorry I've said it, strategy, we really would need to underpin this with a couple of key strands of what we're trying to achieve. Firstly, we'd need to embed digital capability within our departments. Digital by default is not an easy thing for a lot of our people within HMRC. It's not the way that our business has been built up, so it's going to be a big change. We also recognise the need to support the transition to gov.uk, so moving HMRC content off of our platforms and onto the government's central website. But really core to all this is actually engaging with our customers, driving up digital uptake, making it the service that they want to use, and really making sure that we're making the most effective use of that channel as possible. All the while recognising that there will be people that will remain unable to do this on their own, will be unable to use the digital channel without help, and there may even be a small number of customers who, regardless of best intentions, may not be able to use that channel at all, so that we will build in within our strategies safeguards to ensure that everyone has access to that. So really, who are we and where do we fit in? Well, as I say, we are part of HMRC's business tax function. Our role is really to service and provide a support network to the 4.9 million small and medium-sized enterprises that are within the UK at this time. And really our role is to provide support and guidance to make sure that customers have the help that they need to get their taxes correct and on time. I think there's also an important secondary function which is really around supporting that transition to digital. And I think it's here that we recognise through some of our customer research that we've got a large number of customers who actually would like to be able to do it, but they don't have the confidence to use online services or online transactions. And I think our role within providing that support can actually help provide that confidence. We've got a team spread across the country. We've got about 75 or 80 members of staff across the country developing digital products, a whole range of digital products, including webinars, live presentations where people can interact with the speakers over the web, recorded content which includes YouTube, internet page widgets where you can link into education content, e-learning, which is interactive learning materials, and downloadable content as well, which includes things like record-keeping apps for mobile phones. But we're looking to constantly expand that network and look for the things that our customers need. And email plays an important part in directing our customers to those products, which Mike will come on to. In addition to that, we're working with about 2,000 delivery partners within trade sectors, within charities, and it's through them that we're actually supporting those that have less ability to access some of our material and to provide them that confidence. So this graphic really just describes our journey and where we see ourselves going in the future. When we first started doing education work back in 2010, at this point we really sort of started to recognise that our customers were getting things wrong. There was errors that we could pick up through some of our processes, and we were really going back to those customers trying to help them avoid making those errors in the future, and really helping them to correct those errors and gain that ability. But it wasn't very targeted. We didn't have a good feel for individual customer types, and it was a bit scattergun at that point. More recently, we've started to move into understanding our customers a bit better. We ask them questions in some of our services when they register with us about, how aware are you of your tax obligations, how able do you feel you are to fulfil your tax obligations, and with that information we can tailor our education approach to make sure that they get the right messages, the right support, the right push at the right time to really meet all the expectations of them. And it's really in this period that our use of GovDelivery and email became a key tool in our armoury. Looking to the future, we want to understand our customers even better. We want to have a one-to-one relationship with our customers, understand individual needs, individual requirements, and really hold their hands as they go through their tax journey. And really, I think it's in the future we want to integrate our communications approach much more closely with the customer experience, so that we can make sure that we're getting the right messages out at the right time. So we thought about our vision, we came up with that approach, and then we thought about, well, what are our strategic objectives in the interim, how do we get there? And really it came down to these four key ideas, and simply the first one is about attracting customers. We want a service that our customers want to use, we want to get them in, we want to make it the preferred way of interacting with us. The second objective was around enabling our customers, so it's really about giving them the skills, the confidence, the ability to self-serve using HMRC's transactional services on their own. The third is promoting our service to make sure that people are aware of it, and when they are aware of it, they want to come and use it. And the final one was around supporting those that are less able. So, you know, how do we ensure that no one is left behind in this radical move to digital by default? Really, the last thing for me is just to recognise the role that GovDelivery are playing in delivering those strategic objectives. You know, they are playing a key framework and underpinning role within those first three. They're letting us they're helping us create an attractive service, a very innovative service for government, and certainly for HMRC. They're helping us get to customers and give them the skills that they need, and you know, they're helping us promote it. We're going out to customers with information that they might otherwise not find, and that's really sort of, I think, what as Mike will go on to is proving some really positive results. So I'll hand over to Mike Brook now, who will talk about our actual experiences of email.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have a target to reach 718,000 customers in the current year. Now, that sounds quite ambitious, but actually with GovDelivery, we've already done more than that. But reaching them and then impacting them are perhaps two different things. How we reach our customers is, as was mentioned, not simply by email. There's other ways that we contact them. We write to them sometimes. There are all the intermediaries. And those intermediaries are important not just for people who perhaps have some difficulties in understanding the material that we write, but they're also important because there are quite a lot of people who don't want to engage with us, or they don't want to engage directly with us. They would like to engage with us anonymously. And so we want them to understand the things that they need to do. And we use the over 2,000 intermediaries to help us reach some of those people. Where does email fit into this? Well, the email is like a platform that provides what we call the journeys. We've written up journeys for each of the tax headings so that if you become self-employed and you go on to register as self-employed, most people don't then know what they have to do after they've registered. So we've designed journeys which have been evolved over about 5 or 6 years, partly by talking to them. We do quite a lot of research with them, get them into rooms and ask them what you find difficult, what you like about what's there, what you think's missing, all that sort of thing. And so these journeys are like bus stops, basically, so that as each obligation arises throughout the year, we understand roughly what they need to do, and we let them know through the email system. So the email system is like the route master that takes the email out at the right time to the people so that they can take the option of whether or not to look at the information we provide. The emails themselves are not that sophisticated in terms of the wording, in that they're not giving technical information, and they are certainly not tailored to the individual. These are generic emails which go out giving people signposts to the help that we've already designed, and that help is, as you'll see in a moment, it's in different levels. There's a pyramid of support, which is, I saw one earlier on, which was similar, but this one is about levels of information that we provide to people, levels of support. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but the level 1 is things like adverts that just say tax doesn't have to be taxing, and YouTube clips, Twitter. Level 2 would be some of the webinars that last up to an hour, and they're then taking people a bit lower into that particular topic and giving them a bit more of a feel for what they have to do and how they have to do it. Level 3 is hands-on learning, which is e-learning, and this is something that people asked for because they're very, very concerned about getting their tax wrong, and they don't want to have to practice on the live system with their own SA return form. So we have supplied some e-learning where it's interactive and it's like quizzes and so forth. They get a bit of technical information, which they've already possibly had before in the webinars, and then they can practice it and see how they do. Level 4 is the academic stuff, which is the legislation, tax law and so forth. We don't send people there. One of the things that I think I'd want to explain to you is that we've done quite a lot of research on the level of education ability of the people that we are engaging with. And the first page in this in the findings says it's lower than you think. Well, perhaps not now, because the OECD brought forward information to say that we were actually about the second lowest of all the countries that they measured in terms of educational attainment. But we've designed all our communications around comprehension ability of 11 and mathematical ability of about 9. 55% of the country cannot find a percentage using a calculator. And when we talk about the context of the words that they can use, they could read a word, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to then contextualise that word and use it back to you. So we're not talking about the reading ability, we're talking about the comprehension ability. And after all, that's who we're all dealing with. We're all dealing with the same people here. And I imagine that you've already been clued into all of that and you're quite aware of it. But it came as a shock to our department, which has traditionally addressed people in very legalistic terms and also very paternalistic terms. So when we write to them now, it's with a very different tone of voice. It's more about what's in it for you. So instead of saying, if you don't do this, we'll fine you, we'll say something like, don't waste your money on a fine, go and have a look at this. And it's a very different kind of relationship. We are aware, however, that to get too cosy means that we do away with the fear factor. And in fact, although it's maybe not the best thing for me to say in public, the fear factor does deter quite a lot of people from stepping over the lines. And we are aware that we have got what are called potential rule breakers. And so we need to deter them up to a point. So we're not going to be sending anybody Christmas cards. So we also want to attempt to give people what they need when they need it. So at the moment we're pushing it towards them at roughly when they think they need it. But it could be that once they get the hang that this material is there and it's available for them 24/7, most of it, then they'll start to pull it. The way that we have been getting people on is they come into our system saying that they are new in some way. It might be to VAT, it might be to corporation tax, self-employment, whatever. They go through the systems, they come out the other end of the system, and they're faced with a page where they can sign up for help, and they can choose that help. And rather, I think, as was said with the local authority help, they're choosing more than one thing. Gluttons for punishment sort of thing. And the ones that don't go through and actually choose things, we get their email addresses around the backs of the systems, and we adopt them into the systems. And the interesting thing is that we get an opt-out of about 1% right across. So even the people who've signed up and the people who have been pulled into it, the withdrawal from that system is about the same amount. We've been doing quite a lot of experimentation, and we're sort of refining the material that we've got. I think our emails were very much influenced by our feeling that we've got customers here, we need to explain things to them, and so the emails were quite long to begin with, and they were going through our comms people. One of the things that I've noticed here is that most of you are from comms areas, whereas we're not, we're from delivery area and policy area. So it's quite strange that we're in this position of providing so much communication to people, but we're not in a communication area. But our comms that go through the comms section, and they were making them even longer and beefier. So we brought in behaviour change to have a look at our emails, and they've shortened them considerably, so they're about half the length that they were before. That's apparently much more effective. People aren't necessarily that interested in us explaining lots of things about what we think they might want to know before they click on something. We just give them a quick hook onto a link, and then it goes through. We get about 37% of the emails opened, which is quite good, especially when most of these people haven't asked for them. And of that, we get about 10% click-through rate onto some of the links. We also know that, untypically, a lot of our stuff is being stored by people and then they're looking at it later because we're following the click-through, obviously. And although traditionally, with email, normally the action will take place in the first 48 hours, 3 weeks later, and we've more or less doubled what took place in the first week. So it's quite interesting that people are obviously storing them and using them rather than just not opening them or not opening them at all or deleting them. We haven't had any complaints, which we expected. That was part of the business case, was you must expect people will complain because they didn't ask for this material, but that hasn't happened yet. And obviously I think all of us will have a policy of, if you want to opt out of these, then just click on this link and we'll stop sending you things. And as I say, it's only about 1%. This is what one of the emails looks like, and this one is about online seminars. One of the things we found was that if we sent a link to our webinar page, which lists all the seminars that are available, we got about 4% of people doing something with that. If you actually invite them to a specific party, then about 10% go further. That's not to say that 10% actually turn up. It's a bit like here, where 300 and something people said they were coming and 200 and something people turn up. So we have to expect that kind of drop out. But we are getting, we know that the emails are having impact, not simply because of the click-throughs, but because more people are turning up at the webinars, more people are going onto the YouTube and watching YouTube clips. So we know that it is very effective, and we're measuring effectiveness. We've been looking to refine the messages in terms of behaviour change with nudge, so that we're using things like incentive and social norming within the messages, and then testing them side by side to see which ones get more clicks. And the behaviour change messages certainly improve things. It's not just about writing it intelligently, it's about trying to use those sort of techniques that the Cabinet Office have been encouraging us with nudge. They are making a difference. We also are looking at expanding this into a more generic kind of alerts, because what we're doing is we're getting people into the system at the beginning of their signing up, and we have about 1.1 million people come to us every year to sign up for one of the tax headings. About 20% of that is churn. So some of those are very experienced people and probably don't need help. And then we've got all the historic people that have been on the books for many, many years and they're stable, but they're not moving anywhere. They don't necessarily need help, or they don't think they need help. But we're going to start gathering email addresses for some of the historic cases and try out alerts and that sort of thing, the annual cycle type things, don't forget to send your return and that sort of thing, and see what kind of impact that makes. And we're also going to look at SMS to see whether people without, who haven't provided email addresses, whether the phone numbers will be useful to us to direct people onto the new material. We're always reacting to what the public tell us. We are taking samples all the time of all the education that we provide and the emails, and finding out how effective they are. One of the things that puzzled us about the emails was we asked people, are you clear what to do as a result of this email? Now all the emails are really just sophisticated signposts. So it's kind of like, there it is, click on it and you'll understand what to do. But we've come to the conclusion actually there's a number of people who don't know what a link looks like. So an embedded link doesn't look like a link to some of these people, so they're not clicking on them because they don't know that that's what it is. So we're thinking now that we'll have to amend the emails again to try and make it clear that what you do next is actually there. So it's something that seems very obvious to us. It's not actually a correct assumption. As I say, we've used nudge and we've learned through the experiments. And just to conclude here, we've got already about 8.3 million additional revenue benefit. We calculate that on the basis of the use of the material that we are linking people to. And for 14-15, we reckon about an extra 20 million will come in as a result of what we're doing. So I'm happy to take questions if anybody's got any questions.
Jessie from Rosa, you mentioned during the presentation that you knew that people were storing their emails and then opening them and following.
Sorry, can you hear that?
You mentioned that people were storing their emails and then opening them and following them through later. I was just wondering how you got that information back.
Right, well, we were using the MIS that's available in the system, in GovDelivery system. And that will tell us when somebody has clicked on a link. So we take the snapshot after, say, 48 hours, and then we go and have another look at it a week later, and then a month later sometimes, and you can see that there's been quite a significant increase. As I said, it doubled in some instances over the month as it had over the first week, which considerably surprised us. Another surprise that we really had, because this was counterintuitive to me, was that if we put in a biz message, we actually get more clicks on the HMRC message than if we just put in an HMRC message. But that's a fairly tentative finding, because we're still in the early days of this. We need to test this out a bit more. But I had assumed that it would be the other way around. But it seems, we don't really know why, but we think that people are thinking to themselves, oh, they're actually interested in me rather than just want me to do something. And so they're perhaps reacting slightly differently to that.
Hi, Gavin from Health and Safety Executive. So I didn't miss here, you said 37% click-through rates?
No, 37% opening rate.
Opening rates?
Yes, about 10%.
Very, very high. So
it is, yes.
So what do you think that's down to?
That might be the fear factor. If you get something from HMRC, you think, oh, what's that? Better have a look.
I think that's something that we certainly experience too. I think almost there's a fear that if you don't comply with what we're telling them, we'll come to you next.
Yeah. I think there's an element of that, but I think also if they've signed up for it, then they actually do want it, and they will actually open it. So that 37% certainly encouraged us. I think we need to work more on the titles, because I think if we can get the titles smarter, we'll automatically get more openings, and then that will give us more click-throughs.
Anyone else? Oh, okay.
So, am I carrying on? Yeah.
Hi, Matt Ward from Suffolk County Council. In the recent past, there's been some issues where spam emails have come apparently from HMRC,
Yes.
even though they're from you guys.
Yeah.
Have you seen any effect on that towards your legitimate work? Is that seen as a drop?
Well, it's worrying. It is worrying. And we thought one had been cloned recently, but it hadn't been. And we had a few phone calls made to the call centre asking us if this was a real email or not. Unfortunately, it was. It wasn't very well written, I have to say. But it is a concern, and we think that that's part of why we don't get a higher opening rate than we do. If people could be absolutely assured it came from us and that there was no dangerous click on there, then I think more people would open it up. We can also tell from GovDelivery MIS that people are reading it in the preview pane, so we know that as well. And we know how many return visits we're getting to the sites that we're linking people to, because our material doesn't sit on HMRC site. It sits on all these other platforms. So we've got a webinar platform, we've got YouTube, we've got Twitter, all the rest of it. So it's a bit of it's a contorted kind of journey. But from the customer's point of view, if we're just directing them to it, then they don't really care where it is.
I think around the risk of phishing, that certainly is a concern that we're aware of. To some extent, HMRC is a little bit confused in how it sends, how it communicates with customers via email. And we say we never ask for information about you, but we know that we do. But in terms of the education emails that we send out, we do have a place on our on the HMRC.gov.uk site that specifically mentions what that education email should look like, what kind of information we'd expect to be in there. Whether or not all of our customers are seeing that guidance is another question, but certainly, I mean, I personally did think we would get some clones early on, and we've not had that as yet, so I think that's positive.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is a bit of a difficulty is that we started this service on the 1st of July, and on the 2nd of July we were told there was a new logo for HMRC. So I immediately tried to set up, that this would get sorted out. And I was then told, well, we can't sort the site out. The site's not going to be changed until some other time when it needs to be changed for something else. So I've kept the emails with the same logo as the site, because otherwise it would then possibly cause some doubts in people's minds.
Okay, well, as one that has received such an email, apparently you guys owe me 632 quid. I'll look forward to receiving it from them.
I can assure you, that's a phishing one. I have never sent out an email telling anybody I owe them any money.
Do we have any more questions? There was one I would like to ask. You mentioned that you hadn't had any complaints. By the same token, have you polled your audience to find out more about how it's going down and what sort of feedback you're getting?
Yeah, we conduct quarterly analysis, customer research, and so we've recently just had our first quarter that the email system was included within, and I think we achieved about an 8 out of 10, roughly an 8 out of 10 customer satisfaction rate for that. There were a few things that highlighted opportunities for us to enhance that service further. So as Mike alluded to, around having a clearer call to action, so customers knew exactly what they're being asked to do and what the purposes of the email was. Some of our customers didn't quite get that the email was signposting them to help. They thought that was the help in the first place. So there's a little bit of confusion around that. But in terms of the first quarter of feedback, it's been very, very positive.
Yeah, we did have a previous email service that was generated inside the department, and it was kind of like a homemade version. It didn't look very good, and the titles were long numbers, so I was surprised that anybody actually opened them. So we're very pleased to be working with GovDelivery because it's transformed the way we can help people. Yeah.